I've recently been looking into Christianity. I used to read some Eastern philosophy ideas and other spirituality stuff, but I'd like to ask you if there is truth in the Bible. I think personally, yes, there is absolutely truth in the Bible. There's a lot of things that I don't, I mean, I always tell people this: if you want to find a book, a story that is without sin, that is without, and what is sin, right? But that is without wrong, that is without suffering. Throw away the Bible, because the Bible is not perfect in that way. A lot of the stories in there, there's murder, there's genocide, there's slavery, there's incest. There's so much garbage in that book. So obviously there's things that you don't want to, obviously there's things in that you don't want to take into your personal life. But there are like a lot of proverbs, a lot of principles, like love your neighbor as yourself. There is no fear in love. Hope deferred makes the heart grow sick. Um, there's a bunch of biblical principles, a lot of principles, that Jesus talks about. I do think you are able to, whether you believe in God or not, whether if you're exploring spirituality, I think a lot of those principles are really sound, because a lot of those principles, those biblical principles in the Bible, this is the only way I know how to describe them, are hollow. Like, you can take any subjective situation and you can apply those principles on top of it and say, hey, like, how do we work out this situation, as subjective as it may be? It's like, well, all right, love your neighbor as yourself. Is that happening? Or, there is no fear in love. Is that happening? And, just applying these basic uh, principles that do come from a biblical context. I know in my life, just within the past 3 years, not believing in God, that I have still applied those principles in my life, and they have produced great things. There is still a lot of truth in those principles. And there's still things that you can take from that, some things in Psalms, even if you would look at a lot of it as metaphors or stories, still they can be parables that can really help you out in life. Just like I explained earlier, with Plato and Aristotle, they taught a lot of their lessons through storytelling. Storytelling is a very, very powerful tool, and that's no different from the Bible. A lot of the stories that are in there, how you can, whether you believe that they're real or not, or if it's mythology, whatever, you can still take them as parables. Jesus teaches in a lot of parables. And so a lot of the things that Jesus teaches, I think Jesus only taught exclusively in parables, which you can apply those to different areas of life. Obviously, if you're in a religious context, then you apply those parables to more of a biblical context. But those parables can be applied to life and can be applied to spiritual practices. And so I do think, in regard to, is there truth in the Bible? I would say yes, in the form of principles. Um, Now, looking at, I don't, obviously you're talking to someone who's very skeptical, some days I wake up atheist, some days I wake up agnostic, some days I don't know what the hell is going on. And so, looking at the Bible solely to discover the reality of God, I don't think that's, then it goes to the question: are you using? I'll use the Bible in this context. Are you using the Bible as a ceiling, as saying, well, this is what the Bible says, and so cut off from there? Or are you using the Bible as your floor? Are you applying the principles and then practicing spirituality up from that? And sky's the limit with that. Now, obviously, take that and what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I'll let you be the judge of that. So, long story short, yes, I do think that there are still truths in the Bible that can be applied in your daily life practically, whether you believe in God or not. So I do think that there is truth in there. Is the ultimate truth in there that, what Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life? I don't know. I haven't experienced that personally for myself, but who knows? You might. So, if you haven't read the Bible before, I would recommend it. I would absolutely recommend it. Because I do think that there are truths in there that can be applied to everyday life, whether you believe in God or not.